Good evening, everybody. On behalf of the Indian section, I welcome you all to our Friday evening program. Before beginning, let's all join together in the universal invocation. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May each who feels himself as one with thee know he's also one with every other. So today we continue with our KH letters to CWL series. Today we have letter number 2, whose commentary our very accomplished Vibhaji is going to be conducting. So we look forward to her clarity, her research, and the interesting way in which she will present the topic. Most welcome, Vibhaji. I believe you're going to be talking on intuition today, so it should be very interesting.
Yes. Thank you so much, Vimalji. And namaste. Good evening, everybody. Yes, so today we will continue with our study on the Mahatma letters. And Mahatma letters have been written to so many members. Now we are specifically doing the KH letters to C.W. Leadbeater. And we already began letter number 2 in the previous session. And I'm going to continue the commentary on that. So before I begin today, just a quick recap. In the previous session, we saw that C. Jinraj Das, he mentioned about the sacrifices which C.W. Leadbeater had to make to become a chela of the masters. So the path to the masters is not an easy one. The first sacrifice that he made was a complete break from his family, and that too at a very short notice. The second sacrifice was renunciation of all his worldly prospects. He was very good at certain things, organizing meetings, getting together people, good at some sports activities. So he had to renounce all those worldly activities, his worldly prospects. And the third was the sacrifice of a young man's plans of happiness in marriage. So all this is not easy. It surely causes a lot of pain to give up something which you have been doing so wholeheartedly. Pain or heartache. C.W. Leadbeater, he literally made true the words of light on the path. That is what Sri Chinraj Das had mentioned. And light on the path, it says, before the soul can stand in the presence of the masters, its feet must be washed in the blood of the heart. That is what he did. He made those sacrifices. He readily gave up whatever he held dear in the outer world to be accepted as a chela by the master. But giving up the outer world, that alone is not enough. Another very important quality that master looks for in a would-be chela is intuition. And this brings us to the commentary on the next phrase. So I will share my slides with you and then we will go ahead. Right. So this next phrase is, since your intuition led you. Now this is the beginning phrase of the letter number 2 from Mahatma KH in the letter which he wrote to C.W. Leadbeater. So the context of that, what that phrase says, since your intuition led you in the right direction and made you understand that it was my desire, you should go to Adyar immediately. I may say more. And then the master continues in the letter that the sooner you go, the better. Do not lose one day more than you can help. Sail on the 5th if possible. Join Upasika at Alexandria. So he began with this phrase, since your intuition led you in the right direction. Now, CJ says that these opening words of the second letter, they show us how difficult is the path to the master. Meaning that not only renouncing the outer world, as we saw, just previously. But development of some inner qualities are also imperative for chelaship. And that is the difficult part. You can give up external things, but you need to develop some inner qualities. Had Mr. Leadbeater weighed carefully the pros and cons of the situation merely with his mind, his decision would have been delayed. Now, merely with his mind refers to our concrete mind, the rational mind, which is always analyzing logically and it is planning practically. So, had Mr. Leadbeater done that, he would probably have decided that it was not feasible for him to drop everything at a moment's notice and go to Adyar. Okay, so probably that would have been a different decision now. Then CJ says, undoubtedly he would sooner or later have become a chela. Even though if he would not have gone immediately, sooner or later he would have become a chela. But he would have lost the opportunity, the unique opportunity presented to him by the crisis in the Theosophical Society. So, see, first of all, it is important to note here that even a crisis can turn out to be an opportunity for spiritual growth. The crisis being referred, it was the Coolam conspiracy at the headquarters in Adyar and the attack by the Christian missionaries in Madras on the Theosophical Society and also on Madame Blavatsky. Now, the masters foresaw this impending crisis, and it actually happened later after the letter had been received. It happened around mid of 1884. And C.W. Leadbeater, he had this absolute devotion to the masters and great faith in Madame Blavatsky. So, if he would be present at Adyar at the time of that crisis, when it would happen in the future, then he could be of invaluable support to the Theosophical Society and to Madame Blavatsky. So, that was the thought. And for this, to stand and support the society in the moment of its crisis, this faith and courage to stand by the truth under all circumstances, all and any circumstances, that is what leads to spiritual progress. It is one of the most desirable qualities, faith and courage, which help you to stand by the truth. So this was the unique opportunity which was waiting Mr. Leadbeater at Adyar. And here we come to know the present situation was that HPB was leaving the next morning. She was leaving for India. That was on 1st of November, 1884. And Mr. Leadbeater, he had come to say goodbye to her in London and he was returning back to his place. And it was unlikely that he would meet HPB for many years. Okay. So, but he acted in the light of that mysterious faculty dormant in us all, called intuition. So intuition is being called this mysterious quality. Mysterious because intuition brings us some knowledge bypassing our rational mind. Our mind is not involved in that, analyzing and then coming to a conclusion. So that kind of analysis is not there. It is a knowledge which is bypassing our rational mind and coming to us. It is a faculty of our septenary constitution. Man is a septenary being, and this intuition is a faculty in every person, but it has not yet awakened in most people. Or even if it has awakened, it is in a very less measure, in very far and few cases. Spiritual evolution, it is actually about unfolding these higher qualities, the higher faculties of our constitution. They are lying latent and dormant. So that is spiritual evolution all about. Now this term, the term used to describe intuition in theosophical studies is buddhi. But its meaning is different from that given to it usually in Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, buddhi doesn't mean intuition. In Sanskrit, buddhi means intelligence or rather discernment, vivek. You say na vivek buddhi. So spiritual discernment. Intuition is better described as antargyan, the inner knowledge. So this antargyan, that is what is intuition. It is a characteristic of the intuition that it acts from the future and not from the past or present. Past or present, that is already known to us. Meaning it is known to the mind. But intuition comes from the unknown. So it comes from the future. It is excellently described by the phrase used for it by Lawrence of Arabia, the unperceived foreknown. So this person, Lawrence of Arabia, he mentioned or coined this word, the unperceived foreknown. Who was this Lawrence of Arabia? I'm sure many of you would have seen this movie. It was a 1962 great movie, Hollywood movie, a historical film which was made on this person. His actual name was uh, Thomas Edward Lawrence, and he was a British military officer. He lived sometime during 1888 to 1935, and he was there during the First World War. So during the World War, he helped to unite all these Arab tribes, and he led them in a revolt against the Ottoman, that is the Turkish Empire. Okay, so his military tactics, which he used, they required a lot of intuitive decision making to know where the enemy would be, when to attack, when to move ahead, when to wait. So this kind of intuitive decisions he made a lot. And he described this intuition as the unperceived foreknown. It is something known beforehand, even before it happens. So that is what C. Jin Rajdas has referred over here, that it is very appropriately, very aptly described by this person, Lawrence of Arabia, the unperceived foreknown. So coming back to his commentary, he said that it was not possible for the master to suggest that Mr. Leadbeater's presence was urgently needed at Adyar. Now see what we are saying, that the master could foresee the impending crisis at Adyar, but he would not induce anyone to make a decision based on his recommendation. He could not recommend to Mr. Leadbeater that you go to Adyar. Okay, each one has to act from his own free will. The masters, they will never interfere. They will never interfere with the free will or with the karma of another person. Mr. Leadbeater might have decided to go to Adyar in a month's time, or in 2 or 3 months, after all his affairs had been properly put in order. He could have done that. But his intuition grasped the master's thought, and he decided to drop everything and leave at once. So this is one of the way in how intuition works. Okay, C.W. Leadbeater, he could know what the master wanted, and he made his decision to go. Very noteworthy is the emphasis which the master KH has laid on intuition as a very necessary requisite in one's character if one is to unravel the mysteries of the path of occultism. See, it is interesting to note a very necessary requisite if you have to unravel the mysteries of the path of occultism. Now, occultism itself means something which is hidden, something which is concealed, and it requires intuition to know what is concealed, what is unknown. Things may not be known to our mental faculty. Mental faculty is the fifth principle, the Mansik principle. But they are present in our Buddhic consciousness, that is the sixth principle. Okay, so the higher manas, it acts as a mirror, or it acts as a vehicle that receives these flashes, the intuitive flashes from Buddhi, and it translates these. Okay, so that is what is intuition. Receiving, it is acting as a vehicle or a mirror which is receiving these flashes of truth from the Buddhi. And these are the intuitive flashes. And this is what Master wants. He wants to awaken and unfold these higher principles in the Chela. See, in our septenary constitution, currently we are totally awake and active in our lower three principles. The Sthula Sharir, the Linga Sharir, the Kam and Pran, lower four, the lower quaternary, the personality. But our higher principles, they need to be awake. Kindly mute yourself, please.
Good.
Okay. So, what Master wants is to awaken and unfold the higher principles in the Chela, and hence this great emphasis which Master KH has laid on intuition. Now, this is also evident in the letters Master has sent to other members. There also he has stressed on developing this quality of intuition. And CJ tells us the instances where Master has laid emphasis in other letters for other members. In a letter to Miss Arundale written in 1884 occur these phrases. So this is referred from the letters from the Masters of Wisdom, first series, letter number 20. In that, Master writes, the continual performance of duty under the guidance of a well-developed intuition. So he's writing this to Miss Arundale. It means that one should know intuitively, one should know from his inner heart, inwardly, how to perform his duty. He should not have to always wait for instructions. I request all the participants to please mute their mic. Okay. So that was his advice to Miss Arundale, to the continual performance of duty under the guidance of a well-developed intuition. Then his second statement was, from their ignorant and malevolent intolerance, you appeal to us because your intuition tells you that they will not accord you justice. So again, Master is addressing Miss Arundale, and he says that Miss Arundale, she knew something about the members there. The members of the lodge or the Theosophical Society, and something intuitively told her that they would not accord her justice. Sorry. So she appealed to the masters to intervene, perhaps. Okay, and Master knew this. And Master pointed this out to her, that why she is approaching the masters, because intuitively she knew that she would not be given justice in the circumstances which she found herself to be. Now, years later, the master wrote to Mr. Leadbeater, believe in your better intuitions. So this statement, it occurs in the Mahatma letter to C.W. Leadbeater, the third letter. Okay. Further, when we do the letter number 3, you will come across this, where Master tells Mr. Leadbeater, believe in your better intuitions. So this third letter, it was received by Mr. Leadbeater in June 1886, 2 years later. And at that time, he was in Ceylon, present day what we call Sri Lanka. So he was in Ceylon at the time. And he stayed there from 1885 to 1890. He had actually arrived there along with Colonel Olcott. And later he remained there. He served as a prominent educator and a theosophical leader. So he stayed back for these many years. Now, while he was staying there in Ceylon, Mr. Leadbeater would get to know the events of the happenings at the Theosophical Society in Adyar or in England, primarily from the letters which were written to him by Mr. and Mrs. Sinnett. But by that time, what had happened? Mr. Sinnett, he had started drifting apart from the founders. And his letters, they tended to be biased against the founders. And his letters, they kind of portrayed a very bleak future for the Theosophical Society. So these kind of information, Mr. C.W. Leadbeater, he would be getting from A.P. Sinnett's letter. And naturally, this had C.W. Leadbeater very much worried that what would happen to the Theosophical Society, what would happen to the founders. Now, knowing this, knowing his state of mind, the master had written to him in that letter, believe in your better intuitions. You know the society can never perish. The support of the inner founders is there behind the society. So master is writing, believe in your better intuitions. Your own intuition is a higher and more dependable faculty than the opinion or suggestion of others. And you have to learn to trust this intuition, even when others are saying something contrary. Do we have that much self-reliance to be able to trust our own intuition, even in face of contrary opinion or suggestions by the others? So this definitely requires a lot of self-reliance. It requires a lot of courage to believe in yourself. And of course, it requires an unfolded intuition. And these are precisely the characteristics that need to be developed for chelaship. Okay? Unfolding the intuition, being self-reliant, and having the courage of our convictions. Now, somewhat earlier, in writing to Colonel Olcott, the master said, intuitive as you naturally are, chelaship is yet almost a complete puzzle for you. This is in reference to the letter, the Mahatma letters to A.P. Sinnett, letter number 67. So you see, in so many letters, Mahatma Ji has referred to this quality of intuition. And he's saying that Colonel Olcott, his nature might be intuitive, but chelaship is still a complete puzzle for him. So it was true that Colonel Olcott had a natural gift of this intuitive nature. This is a necessary quality for chelaship, but it is not sufficient. There are many other requirements of which perhaps Colonel Olcott had no idea in the beginning. Okay, so if we have already completed the study on Mahatma letters to A.P. Sinnett, and from that one can get a fairly good idea of what is chelaship all about, what it requires. Especially the section number 3, which is on probation and chelaship, it speaks about all these requirements. And of course, in so many other places throughout the theosophical literature, you can find pointers which tell you what is needed for chelaship. So the next, C. Jinrajdas, he states that the whole problem was stated earlier by the master in the following. It was never the intention of the occultists really to conceal what they had been writing from the earnest, determined students, but rather to lock up their information for safety's sake in a secure, safe box, the key to which is intuition. So once again, he speaks of intuition. Now, this is again from letter number 48 of the Mahatma letters to A.P. Sinnett. And here what they are mentioning is that the writings of the occultists, see, even if we read these books like The Secret Doctrine, Isis Unveiled, most of the books are not easy to comprehend. Okay. The occultists, they don't give out the concealed truth plainly and directly. Now, their writings, they are like a puzzle, not easy to comprehend. And those writings, they induce one to think, to contemplate. They induce one to exert their mental faculty to understand what is being said, perhaps read in between the lines. Okay. So, Madame Blavatsky herself has said that when you're reading The Secret Doctrine, you might come upon more truths than she has written in that book. Okay, your intuition might lead you to some more truths. So don't think that what she has written, that is the final word. That is not a line in stone. Your intuition will lead you to higher truths. And these writings of the occultists, more often than not, they are written in metaphors or in symbols or in glyphs, so that the truth, it cannot be easily discerned by common ordinary man. It can be misused. Knowledge is power, And if you know the occult ways, you will have great power. So if you have not transformed spiritually and you have this knowledge, it can definitely lead to its misuse. That is why they want to keep it under this kind of what he calls secure, safe box. And the key to that is intuition. So this is the case with so many of our books, even in theosophical literature. And hence there is so much emphasis on intuition. In the present stage of evolution, this is our next step. We have already developed this logical thinking ability. Now the next step we have to do is to unfold the higher mental ability and unfold the intuition. And lastly, on this subject of intuition is an action of the master to test the intuition of a would-be chela. In 1883, the master was in India and visited Colonel Olcott twice at Lahore, not in astral form, but in his physical body. On the first occasion, Colonel Olcott was sleeping in a tent. It was divided by a curtain, and on the other side, there was a certain W.T. Brown of Glasgow. He had arrived in India that year. After waking Colonel Olcott, the master left him a letter in which are these words: I go now to young Mr. Brown to try his intuition. So master wants to check, does a would-be chela or an aspirant, how much his intuition is unfolded. Now this person about whom has been mentioned here, W.T. Brown or William Tourney Brown, he was a Scottish lawyer. He came from Scotland and he joined the London Lodge of the Theosophical Society in 1883. At that time, he was 26 years old, so quite a young lad. He read A.P. Sinnett's book, The Occult World, and he was thoroughly convinced of the reality and the truth of Theosophy. So within 3 months of joining the society in 1883, he decided to come to India. So he sailed for India. And then coming here, he got in touch with the founders. Now, it is mentioned that apparently this person, Mr. W.T. Brown, he was of a very nervous temperament. Somebody who easily gets unnerved, gets frightened. Okay, nervous temperament. He was of this very nervous temperament. And but in spite of that, he had a considerable promise, meaning perhaps he was a sensitive, he had a psychic nature. So he showed promise that he could move on the occult path. And therefore, Madame Blavatsky, she sent him to join Colonel Olcott and Damodar Mavlankar. At that time, they were on a tour of, northern India. Now, so here, it is in Lahore, while they were in Lahore, at that time, he was visited by Mahatma K.H. to test his intuition, W.T. Brown. Okay. And at that time, it was night time. He was in a tent, which he was sharing with Colonel Olcott, and he lay asleep. So, standing by Mr. Brown's side, the master placed a letter in his hand. Now, master's touch, it awoke Mr. Brown. But so great was his nervousness that it paralyzed him, and he refused to turn his face to the master. Okay? Just see, if we are sleeping and if we are woken up like that, what will be our reaction? Suddenly, if we are not expecting anybody to be moving around the house, somebody just comes and wakes you like that, what would be your reaction? So Mr. Brown, he was paralyzed with nervousness and he refused to turn his face towards the master. Later, Mr. Brown received a long letter from the master of kindly advice and encouragement, but frankly telling him that he was not ready. So that letter received by Mr. Brown, it is in this Letters from the Master of Wisdom first series. It is letter number 22. You can refer to that letter. And if you read that letter, you will find that Master has mentioned in it, one who becomes a slave to any physical weakness never becomes the master of even the lower powers of nature. Now, see, here we are talking about chelaszip, about treading the path of occultism, and about unfolding the higher spiritual faculties of our septenary constitution. So, if we give in to such kind of physical weaknesses like nervousness, okay, like how Mr. Brown had become so nervous that he was paralyzed with fear, then we will not be able to master even the lower powers of nature. And our aspiration is to unfold our latent powers and master them. So we have to definitely get over our physical weaknesses. See, Jin Rajdas, he has further quoted the master's words from that letter. The master had written, "You are not ready. That is all." So, see, as said earlier, master had come to test Mr. Brown's intuition. But his physical weakness was so great, extreme nervousness that he showed, that he was not ready for the occult path. But even though he was showing this kind of physical weakness, even so, it was possible that he had an intuitive nature. And that intuitive nature, it could be useful in the master's work. So master tells him, if you are earnest in your aspirations, if you have the least spark of intuition in you, if your education as a lawyer is complete enough to enable you to put facts in their proper sequence and to present your case as strongly as you in your inmost heart believe to be, then you have material enough to appeal to any intellect capable of perceiving the continuous thread underneath the series of facts. Very long statement. So let us go through it step by step. Okay, so this is from that same letter, letters from the Master of the Wisdom first series, letter number 22. So what Master is saying that if Mr. Brown, suppose if he had, the Master was not able to test him because he was so nervous. Okay, but he's saying that even though, given that, yet if Mr. Brown, he had an intuitive nature and he was a lawyer by profession. So perhaps then, while arguing his cases, the legal cases, he would be having some inmost intuitive feeling about the case, that whether the case is true or not, or some intuitive feeling about that. And if he was able to put all the relevant facts together to prove his case, using his intuition, then winning the case or the judgment passed on the case, that would be validating his intuition. And if he's capable of that intuition in his professional career, and he earnestly wants to tread the occult path, then even though he's not yet ready for it, but he could use this intuitive capability of his to help in the master's work. Okay? And what that would be? That would be to appeal to the intellect of other people, of other such people who are intuitive, to realize the truth of theosophy. See, the duration was around 1884. Okay, that society was formed, and then people were still coming to know about theosophy, and some were skeptical, some were in two minds, some believed, some didn't believe. So, to make them understand the truth of theosophy, if this person, Mr. Brown, he could, by his writings on theosophy, if he could appeal to other people's intellect so that they could perceive this continuous thread underneath the series of facts. So they could discern the truth in theosophy through his writings. So that is what Master wanted him to do. Further in that letter, Master mentioned to him that for the benefit of such people only who could perceive this kind of continuous thread under the series of facts, for them he has to write. Just like Mr. Sinnett, he wrote so many books, so many articles after the teachings which he received from the master. Okay, so master sees the usefulness in each aspirant, and he gives only that work which they are capable of doing. But Mr. Brown finally failed to make good, and very quickly he lost interest in the society, and it is said that in the end he joined the Roman Catholic Church. So unfortunately, he couldn't pursue this line. So that was about this phrase where a master mentioned, since your intuition led you. So what is intuition all about? And in all the other letters where master has mentioned that phrase. Now with this then, C. Raj Das, he took up the next phrase, go to Adyar immediately. It is again from the same letter, the same statement, the opening statement where master mentioned, since your intuition led you in the right direction and made you understand that it was my desire, you should go to Adyar immediately. I may say more. So he has already taken the decision through his intuition, not by the recommendation of master. Okay. So now that he has taken the decision of his own free will, so master can say more. And then master tells him that the sooner you go, the better. Don't lose even a single day. And you should sail on the 5th if possible and join Upasika at Alexandria. He also tells him, let no one know you are going. And may the blessings of our Lord and my poor blessing shield you from every evil in your new life. Greetings to you, my new Chela. So in this letter, it is where he has given his acceptance that now you are my Chela. So the commentary written by C. Raj Das, he says, why was Master anxious that Mr. Leadbeater should go to Adyar immediately? And the answer to this, it lies in the Master's words later, join Upasika at Alexandria. So HPB, she was leaving for Liverpool in the morning. So Liverpool is the port in England from where she could take the ship to come to India. And she was in London. So from London, she was leaving for Liverpool in the morning after Mr. Leadbeater received the second letter to sail to India. Now, HPB, she would be accompanied by Mr. Alfred J. Cooper Oakley and his wife, Mrs. Isabel Cooper Oakley. Now, neither of these people, they were chelas. They were not chelas. And nothing that Mr. Cooper Oakley did showed that he ever aspired to chelaship. He was not inclined to become a chela. Mrs. Cooper Oakley, she did, meaning she had this kind of aspiration to become a chela. But she became a chela several years later, not at that time when they were going to India with Madame Blavatsky. So in fact, there is a lot of explanation here, but it is not, it need not be explained much, except that the master, he foresaw the crisis at Adyar, and the people at Adyar at that time, they would not be of much help in terms of supporting this crisis, supporting the society during this crisis. And that was another good reason for C.W. Leadbeater to reach Adyar at the earliest, because he could be of great help. So C. Raj Das is stating one by one who were the people who would be present at Adyar. One would be Mr. and Mrs. Cooper Oakley. They were accompanying HPB from Liverpool to come to Adyar, but they would not be of much use so far as HPB's health and affairs were concerned. So they would not even be able to help in HPB's health. She always suffered from a very poor health. We have seen in so many places masters had to really, as he writes, fix her up, physical health. So they would not even be able to support Madame Blavatsky in her health and her work that she was doing. Now, this Mr. Oakley, so C. Raj Das has given some information regarding these Oakleys, that he was a scholarly person. He came from Cambridge University. But like he was a very introspective person, drawn inwards. And he had these fits of deep depression. Okay, he was not very enthusiastic in his devotion to theosophy. So he left Adyar. Once he reached Adyar, after some time he left Adyar and he became the registrar of the University of Madras. And then he had this habit of taking some drugs, and one day he was found dead in his bed. So that was what happened to him. One person, one member who was in Adyar. Now, even this Mrs. Oakley, so there is nothing on record to show that they had any personal attachment to HPB. But his wife, that is Mrs. Oakley, She was utterly devoted to Madame Blavatsky. But she herself suffered from such poor health. So she had to return back to England because of her poor health. So in this way, neither Mr. Cooper Oakley nor Mrs. Cooper Oakley, they could be called upon for any strenuous service. This is the word he has used, C. Jinraj Das. They could not be relied upon for any strenuous service towards the society. There was, however, one valuable quality in Mr. Leadbeater. He was dependable. This HPB knew. Otherwise, she would not have written with her own hand at the bottom of an article of his in the Theosophist, August 1886, A Brave Heart. So, an article of Mr. Leadbeater was published in that, the Theosophist of 1886, August. And HPB, she wrote these words, a brave heart, meaning a courageous, what a courageous person. His article, whatever he would have written in that, he would need to have had great courage in putting those thoughts to the public. And nor she would have called him in the copy of her Voice of Silence, which she gave him, my sincerely appreciated and beloved brother and friend. So she had so much regards for him. She had given him this copy. She wrote this book, Voice of Silence. No, that was towards her very later years. And she wrote in that, my sincerely appreciated and beloved brother. Okay. So in the footnote of this letter, it is mentioned that Mr. Leadbeater, he reverenced HPB as the mouthpiece of the masters, but also admired her for herself, what she was in herself, her courage, her service, her devotion. Okay. And he was her loyal servant. This is given in the footnote. So what we see here is the dependability of C.W. Leadbeater. This is another important virtue that an aspirant should strive to cultivate in his character. Earlier we have seen unfold your intuition, then have this self-reliance to rely on your intuition and be strong and brave to stand by your conviction. Now here is another quality, dependability. An aspirant, he should strive to cultivate this dependability in his character. He can be counted upon every time to do what he is expected. He is trustworthy, he is reliable, and he is consistent. That is the meaning of dependability. The master can depend on you for the work if you have that kind of reliability. So that is a very desirable quality for chelaship. And this quality of Mr. C.W. Leadbeater is what Madame Blavatsky valued. And she showed her appreciation for him in public and in the writings. Now, Colonel Olcott, he was far away at Adyar. HPB started on her long journey to India with only the 2 Cooper Oakleys. It was the master's great desire that HPB should have at her side a man who was a man, that is Mr. Leadbeater. So that was another reason why master wanted C.W. Leadbeater to go to Adyar immediately. Now, in addition to this, Adyar was in the greatest need of capable assistants to help Colonel Olcott in what appeared to be a critical and overwhelming situation. So it is not that there were not capable people at Adyar. There were, but just that none would be able to help in this upcoming crisis situation. And master could foresee everything, right? So he was so interested in having Mr. Leadbeater reach there. Now, already the people who were there, one was Colonel Olcott, of course, who was the president, the founder president. Then Damodar K. Mavlankar was there, selfless, pure, and he was dedicated to the masters totally, heart and brain. Okay, heart, brain, and soul. He was dedicated to the masters. But he felt crushed. He felt himself totally swamped under his burden of responsibilities. And moreover, in early 1885, his master, he agreed to his request. He acceded to his prayer to be released from his work at Adyar, and then he was called to Tibet to be with his master. So he would not be present there. And then there was another person, Dr. Franz Hartmann. He was at Adyar, but he was not a Chela. And unfortunately, he was hostile to Damodar. Also, now the masters themselves, Master M and Master KH, they had several Hindu Chelas in India. But these Chelas, they were occupied by their duties and by their work for the master. So very few could be released from their work to come to Adyar. And nor did these Chelas have the capacity which was required to help Colonel Olcott and Madame Blavatsky in that particular crisis. So, despite there being so many people with Colonel Olcott and Madame Blavatsky and all the people at Adyar, still, there was not adequate support for that crisis. So, these were the reasons why Master was asking, or he was wanting Mr. Leadbeater to go to Adyar immediately. I think I missed a slide. So there is one more slide which says, that is in this, for this particular phrase, perhaps the master counted on one further value that Mr. Leadbeater had in the crisis, that a clergyman of the Church of England should come out to India with HPB when she was proclaimed a trickster by the missionaries, and openly attest that he did not only have faith in the masters and in her, but also his conviction of the greatest Oriental religions. So Mr. Leadbeater, he had accepted Buddhism when he had gone to Ceylon. All these things did have an effect on the mind of the public in Ceylon and India, and held many steady who were wavering. I'm sorry I did not add this slide here, but this is what the letter said, that the masters, they counted on one further value of the presence of Mr. Leadbeater during the crisis. Okay, he was a clergyman from the Church of England. Okay, and during the crisis in the Theosophical Society at Adyar, the Coulomps, they had accused Madame Blavatsky of being a fraud, of fabricating the letters, and it was the Christian missionaries who leveled charges against HPB, because the Coulomps had approached them and told them all these things. So it was the Christian missionaries who leveled these charges against her. And Mr. Leadbeater, because he was a clergyman from the Church of England, so at such a time, his support to HPB, his faith in the masters, and his faith in this religion, the Eastern religion, it would add more weight towards supporting the society during crisis. Okay. See, Christian missionaries are attacking her, but if a clergyman himself is standing by her, it adds a lot of credence to the society. And it also reinforced the support of other members. The other members who were faltering in their support, initially who were not feeling so strong enough to stand by in the defense of Madame Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society at the time. So they got, their faith and their strength was reinforced. So these were all the reasons why Master had asked C.W. Leadbeater to go to Adyar immediately. And the important thing to understand here is that ordinary people, we base our decisions on very short-term vision. Okay, usually we lack this intuition. The important thing to understand is that the masters, when they decide upon an action, even though we may not understand why a master has decided something, his decision is always based on great foresight. No, it has far-reaching effects. He has great foresights. His intuitive faculty is already unfolded. So it may have seemed very unreasonable to expect C.W. Leadbeater to drop everything at a moment's notice, to uproot his life from London and to move to Adyar immediately. He could be allowed more time. One could think like that, but the masters knew why he is needed at Adyar. And not only to support the society during the time of its crisis, but also as an opportunity for his own spiritual growth. So this was the commentary on that phrase that he should go to Adyar immediately. And with this, we will stop for today. The next phrase can be taken up in the next session, that is sail on the 5th. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vibhaji. And talking about dependability and intuition, beautiful teachings. Yes, Sushma ji, welcome. Please do the Hindi translation.
थैंक यू विभा जी, थैंक यू विमल जी।
Thank you.
आज हम गुरुदेव केएस द्वारा CW लेडबिटर को लिखे गए सेकंड लेटर के सेकंड पार्ट का अध्ययन कर रहे हैं, जिसकी समीक्षा सी जिनराज दास जी ने की है। पिछले सत्र में हमने CW लेडबिटर द्वारा किए गए त्याग का अध्ययन किया था, जिसमें आखिरी वाक्यांश ये था कि गुरुदेव के सम्मुख उपस्थित होने के पूर्व शिष्य को अपने चरणों को अपने हृदय के रक्त से धो लेना चाहिए। इसी संदर्भ में CW लेडबिटर लिखते हैं कि नवंबर 89 में जब मैं 13 साल का था, तो मेरे लिए वो खास दिन था जब मैंने अपने पैर हृदय के रक्त से धोए थे। उस दिन गुरुदेव ने मुझे एक चेले के रूप में स्वीकार किया था। अब इसका पहला वाक्यांश है, चूंकि आपकी अंतर्दृष्टि ने आपको मार्ग दिखाया है। गुरुदेव लिखते हैं, सिंस योर इंट्यूशन लेड यू। दूसरे पत्र के प्रारंभिक शब्द में बताते हैं कि गुरुदेव तक पहुंचने का रास्ता कितना कठिन है। यदि लेडबिटर ने स्थिति के लाभ एवं हानि यानी फायदे और नुकसान का आकलन केवल अपने तार्किक मन से किया होता, तो उन्होंने निर्णय लेने में देर कर दी होती। निसंदेह जल्दी या देरी से वह शिष्य बन ही जाते, लेकिन थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी में आए संकट से जो उन्हें विशिष्ट अवसर मिला, उसे वह खो देते। मास्टर लिखते हैं कि HP भी अगली सुबह भारत जा रही थी। CW लेडबिटर ने उन्हें अलविदा कह दिया था और यह संभावना थी कि कई वर्षों तक उनसे वो नहीं मिल पाते, लेकिन लेडबिटर ने उस रहस्यमयी शक्ति के प्रकाश में कार्य किया जो हम सब में सुप्त यानी डोरमेंट स्थिति में है, जिसे अंतर्दृष्टि कहते हैं। थियोसॉफिकल अध्ययनों में इसके लिए बुद्धि शब्द का प्रयोग किया गया है, लेकिन इसका अर्थ संस्कृत में सामान्यतः तौर पर किए जाने वाले अर्थ से अलग है। उसमें उसे बुद्धि कहते हैं, संस्कृत में जो इसका अर्थ है। इस अंतर्दृष्टि की विशेषता यह है कि यह भविष्य से काम करता है, न कि अतीत या वर्तमान से। लॉरेंस ऑफ अरेबिया द्वारा इसके लिए प्रयुक्त वाक्यांश या फ्रेज है, अज्ञात पूर्व ज्ञात, द अनपरसीव्ड फोरनोन। यह एक उत्कृष्ट वर्णन किया गया है। गुरुदेव के लिए यह सुझाव देना संभव नहीं था कि अड्यार में लेडबिटर की उपस्थिति की तत्काल आवश्यकता है। श्री लेडबिटर अपने सभी कार्य ठीक से व्यवस्थित करने के बाद 1 महीने या 2 महीने या 3 महीने में अड्यार जाने का फैसला कर सकते थे, लेकिन CW लेडबिटर की अंतर्दृष्टि ने गुरुदेव के विचारों को समझ लिया और उन्होंने सब कुछ छोड़कर तुरंत जाने का फैसला किया। उल्लेखनीय है कि गुरुदेव केएच ने अंतर्दृष्टि शब्द पर जोर दिया है, क्योंकि यह गुह्य विद्या के मार्ग में रहस्यों को सुलझाने के लिए, अनरेवल करने के लिए व्यक्ति के चरित्र में अत्यंत आवश्यक गुण है। 1884 में मिस अरुंडेल को लिखे एक पत्र में यह एक वाक्यांश आता है। यह पत्र लेटर फ्रॉम द मास्टर ऑफ द विजडम फर्स्ट सीरीज का लेटर 20 है। उसमें वो लिखते हैं, मास्टर, सुविकसित अंतर्ज्ञान के मार्गदर्शन में कर्तव्य का निरंतर पालन, द कंटिन्यूअल परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ ड्यूटी अंडर द गाइडेंस ऑफ अ वेल डेवलप्ड इंट्यूशन विद इन यूनिटेड कॉमा। उनकी अज्ञानता, ये पत्र जो उन्होंने अरुंडेल जी को लिखा था, इनकी अज्ञानता और द्वेषपूर्ण असहिष्णुता से बचने के लिए आप हमसे निवेदन करती हैं, क्योंकि आपकी अंतर्दृष्टि आपको ये बताती है कि वो आपको न्याय नहीं देंगे। 2 वर्ष बाद गुरुदेव ने C.W. लेडबिटर को लिखा कि अपनी बेहतर अंतर्दृष्टि पर विश्वास रखें। बाद में हम ये देखेंगे C.W. लेडबिटर द्वारा गुरु केज को प्राप्त तीसरे संदेश में। फिर कुछ समय पहले कर्नल ऑलकॉट को लिखे एक पत्र में गुरुदेव ने कहा था कि आप विदिन इनवर्टेड कॉमा आप स्वाभाविक रूप से सहज अंतर्दृष्टि वाले हैं, फिर भी आपके लिए शिष्यत्व यानी चेलाशिप लगभग एक पहेली है, कंप्लीट पजल है। और इस पूरी समस्या के बारे में गुरुदेव ने पहले ही बताया था कि गुप्त विद्या जानने वालों का उद्देश्य कभी भी यह नहीं था कि वह गंभीर और दृढ़ निश्चय वाले छात्रों से अपनी लिखी बातों को छिपाएं, बल्कि वह अपनी जानकारी को सुरक्षा के लिए एक सुरक्षित तिजोरी में, इस सेफ्टी सेक के लिए एक सुरक्षित तिजोरी यानी लॉकअप में बंद रखना चाहते थे, जिसकी चाबी है अंतर्दृष्टि यानी इंट्यूशन। इसका उल्लेख द महात्मा लेटर्स टू एपी सेनेट लेटर नंबर 48 में किया गया है। और आखिर में अंतर्दृष्टि के इस विषय पर गुरुदेव ने एक भावी चेले के लिए यानी वुड बी चेले की अंतर्दृष्टि की परीक्षा लेने के लिए एक एक्शन लिया। 1883 में गुरुदेव भारत में थे और उनकी लाहौर में कर्नल ऑलकॉट से 2 बार मुलाकात हुई। अपने सूक्ष्म शरीर में नहीं बल्कि भौतिक शरीर में, नेचुरल बॉडी में नहीं यानी फिजिकल बॉडी में। पहली बार जब वो मिले तो कर्नल ऑलकॉट एक तंबू में सो रहे थे। तंबू एक पर्दे से 2 भागों में विभाजित था और दूसरी ओर ग्लासगो के निवासी W.T. ब्राउन थे, जो उसी साल भारत आए थे। कर्नल ऑलकॉट को जगाने के पश्चात गुरुदेव ने इनके पास एक पत्र छोड़ा जिसमें ये शब्द लिखे थे, मैं अब युवा मिस्टर ब्राउन के पास उनकी अंतर्दृष्टि की परीक्षा लेने के लिए, परखने के लिए जा रहा हूं। मिस्टर ब्राउन के पास खड़े होकर गुरुदेव ने उनके हाथ में एक पत्र रखा। गुरुदेव के स्पर्श से मिस्टर ब्राउन जाग गए, लेकिन उनकी घबराहट इतनी तीव्र थी कि वह पैरालाइज्ड हो गए और उन्होंने गुरुदेव की ओर अपना चेहरा घुमाने से इनकार कर दिया। बाद में मिस्टर ब्राउन को गुरुदेव का एक लंबा पत्र मिला जिसमें प्रेम पूर्वक सलाह और प्रोत्साहन था, लेकिन स्पष्ट रूप से यह कहा गया था कि अभी आप तैयार नहीं हैं। बस यही बात है। अगर आप यानी मिस्टर ब्राउन अपनी आकांक्षाओं के प्रति गंभीर हैं, अर्नेस्ट हैं और आप में अंतर्बोध की जरा भी चिंगारी है, अगर एक वकील के रूप में आपकी शिक्षा इतनी पूर्ण है कि आप तथ्यों को उचित क्रम में रख सकें और अपना पक्ष उतनी ही दृढ़ता से प्रस्तुत कर सकें जितना कि आप अपने अंतर्मन की गहराइयों में मानते हैं, तो आपके पास पर्याप्त सामग्री है जो तथ्यों की श्रृंखला के पीछे छिपे निरंतर सूत्र को समझने में सक्षम हो सकता है। लेटर्स फ्रॉम द मास्टर ऑफ द विजडम फर्स्ट सीरीज लेटर नंबर 23 में ये बात का उल्लेख है। लेकिन मिस्टर ब्राउन अंततः सफल नहीं हो पाए और सोसाइटी के प्रति शीघ्र ही उनकी रुचि समाप्त हो गई और कहा जाता है कि आखिर में वो रोमन कैथोलिक चर्च में शामिल हो गए। अब एक अन्य वाक्यांश है, गो टू अड्यार इमीडिएटली, तुरंत अड्यार जाओ। गुरुदेव लेडबिटर को अड्यार तुरंत भेजने के लिए चिंतित थे। इसका उत्तर गुरुदेव के बाद के शब्दों में मिलता है। वो कहते हैं अलेक्जेंड्रिया में उपासिका यानी HPB से मिले। जब लेडबिटर को भारत यात्रा के लिए दूसरा पत्र मिला, उसकी अगली सुबह HPB लंदन से लिवरपूल के लिए रवाना हो रही थी। HPB के साथ मिस्टर अल्फ्रेड J. कूपर ओकले और उनकी पत्नी मिसेस इसाबेल कूपर ओकले भी थे, लेकिन उनमें से कोई भी चेला नहीं था। मिस्टर कूपर ओकले के किसी कार्य से यह नहीं प्रतीत होता था कि वो चेला बनना चाहते थे। हाँ, मिसेस कूपर ओकले चाहती थी, लेकिन वो कई साल बाद चेला बनी। लेकिन जहां HPB के स्वास्थ्य और उनके कार्यों का संदर्भ था, इन दोनों में से यानी दोनों कूपर ओकलों में से कोई भी HPB के लिए उपयोगी नहीं था। मैं मिस्टर कूपर ओकले से कभी नहीं मिला, जिसे इंदिरा दासी कहते हैं। हालांकि मैंने उनके बारे में सुना है, लेकिन मैं मिसेस कूपर ओकले को अच्छी तरह जानता था कि वह कैम्ब्रिज से शिक्षा प्राप्त उन्होंने की थी, संभवतः विद्वान भी थे। वह इंट्रोस्पेक्टिव भी थे और गहरे अवसाद और उदासी के दौर से गुजरते थे। हालांकि वह एचपीबी के साथ भारत गए थे और कुछ साल कर्नल ऑलकॉट के सहायक के तौर पर अड्यार में रहे, लेकिन थियोसॉफी के प्रति उनकी निष्ठा उत्साहहीन थी। उन्होंने मद्रास यूनिवर्सिटी का रजिस्ट्रार बनने के लिए उस अड्यार छोड़ दिया और एक दिन वह नशीली दवाओं के अत्यधिक खुराक लेने के कारण जो है वह मृत पाए गए और दस्तावेजों में कहीं ऐसा नहीं उल्लेख मिलता कि वो न एचपीबी के प्रति कोई लगाव था। लेकिन उनकी पत्नी मिसेस कूपर एचपीबी के प्रति समर्पित थी, लेकिन उनका स्वास्थ्य ठीक न होने के कारण वह परेशान रहती थी और मिसेस कूपर ओकले अपने जीवन के आखिर तक गुरुदेव थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी की सेवा के लिए दिन रात परिश्रम उन्होंने किया और एचपीबी के प्रति उनकी निष्ठा में कोई कमी नहीं थी। लेकिन मिसेस कूपर और न ही मिस्टर कूपर को कोई कठिन कार्यों को सौंपा जा सकता था। हालांकि मिस्टर लेडबिटर में एक विशेष गुण था कि वो बहुत विश्वास पात्र थे। एचपीबी ये बात जानती थी। वह अगस्त 1886 में द थियोसॉफिस्ट में छपे उनके एक लेख के नीचे अपने हाथ से वह CW लेडबिटर के लिए एक बहादुर दिल ये विशेषण का प्रयोग करती हैं और उन्होंने अपने हाथ से लेडबिटर को अपनी पुस्तक वॉइस ऑफ द साइलेंस की एक कॉपी देते हुए कहा, मेरे सच्चे प्रशंसा पात्र अप्रिशिएटेड और मेरे प्यारे भाई और दोस्त। मिस्टर लेडबिटर एचपीबी को गुरुदेव की माउथ पीस यानी प्रवक्ता मानकर उनका सम्मान करते थे। साथ ही उनकी व्यक्तिगत रूप से भी प्रशंसा करते थे। वह एचपीबी के वफादार सेवक थे। कर्नल ऑलकॉट तो अड्यार से बहुत दूर थे। एचपीबी ने सिर्फ कूपर ओकले दंपत्ति के साथ भारत की अपनी लंबी यात्रा शुरू की, लेकिन गुरुदेव की आंतरिक इच्छा थी कि एचपीबी के साथ एक ऐसा व्यक्ति हो जो वास्तव में भरोसेमंद हो। इसके अलावा अड्यार में कर्नल ऑलकॉट की मदद के लिए योग्य सहायकों की बहुत आवश्यकता थी, क्योंकि परिस्थितियां बहुत नाजुक और चुनौतीपूर्ण थी, बहुत क्रिटिकल और ओवरवेलमिंग थी। हालांकि दामोदर केव मालवंकर वहां थे जो निस्वार्थ और पवित्र थे, साथ ही उनका मन, मस्तिष्क और आत्मा पूरी तरह से गुरुदेव को समर्पित था। लेकिन वह कार्य के बोझ से परेशानी महसूस कर रहे थे और 1885 के प्रारंभ में गुरुदेव ने उनकी प्रार्थना मान ली और उन्हें मुक्त कर दिया और उन्हें अपने गुरु के पास तिब्बत बुला लिया। डॉक्टर फ्रांज हार्टमैन अड्यार में थे, लेकिन वह शिष्य नहीं थे, चेले नहीं थे और दामोदर के प्रति उनका व्यवहार शत्रुतापूर्ण था। हालांकि भारत में गुरुदेव एवं केएच के कई हिंदू चेले थे, लेकिन उनमें से अधिकांश काम की व्यस्तता के कारण अड्यार नहीं जा सकते थे और न ही उनमें संकट के समय कर्नल ऑलकॉट और एचपीबी की मदद करने की पर्याप्त क्षमता थी। शायद इसीलिए गुरुदेव ने संकट के समय लेडबिटर के एक और विशेष गुण पर भरोसा किया था। वह था इंग्लैंड के चर्च के पादरी का एचपीबी के साथ भारत आना, जबकि मिशनरियों ने उन्हें एचपीबी को धोखेबाज कहा था, ट्रिकस्टर कहा था। लेडबिटर ने न केवल गुरुदेवों के एवं एचपीबी के प्रति अपनी विश्वास प्रकट किया, बल्कि पूर्वी धर्मों की महानता के प्रति अपना पक्का विश्वास भी दिखाया। मिस्टर लेडबिटर ने बौद्ध धर्म अपनाया। जब वो समूह के साथ सिलोन यानी लंका गए थे, तब इन सभी बातों का लंका में भारत के लोगों पर बहुत असर पड़ा और जो लोग विचलित थे, अस्थिर थे, उन्हें भी CW लेडबिटर ने स्थिर किया और मजबूत बनाए रखा। यह CW लेडबिटर की विशेषता थी। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Sushma ji, and thank you, Vibha ji. What is interesting about this last bit about Isabel Cooper Oakley is that she was the person to whom HPB had said, let the link be unbroken. Don't let my last reincarnation be a failure. This is very famous lines. But in this, if you note, this was HPB's last incarnation. So she was a Jivan Mukta. So that's a small interesting tidbit. So now there are a lot of people here, Shindeji, Dubalji, Harshvardhanji, anybody would like to say or add anything to this precious part of the history of Theosophical Society and the teachings given in this letter? Shindeji, would you like to start? Or any other questions or anything anybody has also is okay. Yes, Shindeji.
Yes, I can say only thing. This letter gives the importance of Adyar. Why they are sent to Adyar? What is there in the Adyar? We all have to investigate and experience. So those who are having opportunity to come and work at Adyar, they may get more. That is what it seems. And those who are betraying here, coming here and not working, they will be punished also. So that is what Krishnamurti said. At Adyar, either you can become a god or a pitiful sinner. This is what I am remembering. Why such letter in those days given importance to go to HPB and help her. Cooper came here. He was the capacity of being vice chancellor, etc. But still he was not trusting H.P. Blavatsky. So that brotherhood is essential. We must trust each other. Every soul is selected and every soul is directed towards the intuitive capacity. As Vibhaji told rightly, everybody is stimulated this faculty of intuition and more when you join Theosophical Society. That's what I want to add here. Very interesting. Sushmaji also read in Hindi. That is also very clear. And Vibhaji explains. Side explanations are very good. She is very good explanation, commentary also. And
Yes.
thank you very much,
Actually-
Vibhaji and Sushmaji.
Yeah. Because C.W. Leadbeater, when he came to Adyar, and it was in the octagonal bungalow that he got the initiation, the 40 days, 42 days in which he did that, the process of Kundalini rising. And of course, that led to the writing of so many books between them and Annie Besant. Until
Yes.
date, it may very often we have seen it is their books which bring new members inside the society and new students, new scholars. So I think such a precious work was done by Leadbeater by coming to Adyar and what happened after that. Okay, Dubalji, Harshvardhanji, would you like to say something?
Yes, very nice. This particular session about the letter to Leadbeater sir, that is a wonderful saga of the history of the establishment of Theosophical Society after 1875. The struggle that HBB faced and the intuitional forces that were shared there in Adyar, that is the most significant in the life of the people worked during that time. And therefore, the hostility of that person against Damodarji, Maulankar, that was a kind of remarkable matter to understand. So whosoever worked there in Adyar must have this kind of tendency. And even in the modern time also, let us be more amicable, selfless, and very loving to our duties. So that is the message that we have to derive from this. Because the whole history is depicted through Mahatma letters. To whomsoever Mahatmas have written the letters, that is the particular establishment of the whole organization to be in front side with the world and to understand the real human nature and to develop that hidden powers. So that was the most interesting thing that we have to learn. So all the letters, whatever we study, they only impart this kind of knowledge. And I congratulate Vibhaji today. Very luckily, I joined and I'm very happy joining this particular session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, there's no other comments, then I think we can end. Shall we end it, Vibhaji?
Yes, I think.
Okay. So thank you everybody for joining today. Thank you Vibhaji and Sushma ji for the wonderful teachings. With gratefulness to all the organizers. Om Asato Ma Satkamayam Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamayam Mrityorma Amritam Gamayam Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Bye everyone.
Thank you all.